Well, welcome to the Will and Dave show, but it is not the Will and Dave show tonight. This is a preview again, just working out a few of the technical difficulties, and I'm learning how to run stuff and hopefully not screwing it up too bad. And I have a special guest tonight. That special guest is one Tim VanDenHeuvel. He probably knows me about as well as anybody else on this planet, with the exception of my wife. We've had some pretty majestic arguments. So before he gets here, I get to tell a story about him. So I used to work for Tim. He was my boss, and we swore at each other a lot, to put it mildly. And we used to argue about stuff that was just, it was absolutely, it was crazy. His wife, whose name is also Susan, would watch us and just shake her head. And one day we were arguing in her office about something, who knows what it was. And Susan, she got up, she looked at us and said, "You two should be married," and walked out of her own office and left us there to argue. And that sort of sets the stage for Tim and our relation and my relationship over the years. He's been a great friend, and we argue. Heck, I don't know anything that we haven't argued about. So without further ado, I'm going to try to bring him in the conversation. And there's that. Hey, Tim, how's it going?
Well, hello, David. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
I wouldn't have anybody else for my first show all by myself. In case anybody notices, this is not the Will and Dave show now. This is now the Tim and Dave show. Yeah.
So thank you for telling me that we had some very majestic, I like that word, arguments over the years. That's very eloquent, Dave. You're very nice in saying it that way. My wife, on the other hand, would say it differently on how we argue.
Your wife and my wife would call it differently.
So I want to bring up a little topic here, because I'm looking at my phone and you sent me some notes on how to, a few notes on how to log in onto this live feed. And it says here, a few notes. Number 1, try to get the camera at or above eye level so we don't get a good shot of inside your nose. Really?
Really?
I trimmed these babies tonight, Dave. They look good, buddy.
So the Dutch heritage.
Oh, you grow hair in places you never thought you would. Trust me. If we want to get onto the subject, I got my hair cut here a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a story. And it's really awkward when there's more hair inside your ears than there is on top of your head. Uh-huh.
Well, see, I'm on the... Go ahead.
She charged me extra.
See, I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I have more hair on my back than on my forehead. It just keeps moving back.
Yikes, that's something I didn't need to know.
Well, I was in Mexico with you once. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
We were there for Brittany's wedding.
Yeah, my daughter's wedding.
And we're out playing some game in the pool with a bunch of guys also from Canada. Water polo. And one of the guys yelled out, "I don't want to play on the team with the back sweaters." And that has probably been the only time in my life I've been embarrassed enough to get out of the pool and go inside.
That was a crazy, crazy game. It got a little rough towards the end.
It did. We played the Americans against everybody else, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. The Canadians did well. We could drink a lot more.
I was on the American team.
America.
You know my son, William, don't you?
The illustrious Will I am. Yes, I do know William. I've known your whole family for a long time, Dave.
You have. You've been with us through a lot of fun times, a lot of scary times. But I believe that your wife and my son have history.
Have relations?
Well, have history anyways. I'm not sure
So,
about relations. Don't know if we want to go that far.
well, shall, shall, shall I tell the story?
Absolutely. He's watching, so I think
Is-
absolutely we should.
oh, good. And he can't rebuke this whole conversation then.
No, but there's his comment. He's still scared.
Oh, he better be. Yeah. So this happened a few years back. William, I don't know how old he was. He must have been 14, 15, maybe 16.
Oh, I don't think he was that old, Tim.
That old?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
So we go on to this ATV excursion, and it was a yearly trip that we would make up into the mountains, and we would stay in these nice little, shall I say, rustic cabins. David, is that a good way of putting them?
Yeah, that's a really generous way of putting it. I wish we had
Yeah,
pictures.
I do have pictures. I could dig them out one for maybe one show later on or something. I could show some of those pictures, and I think I
Absolutely.
even have pictures of William on those as well. So we could bring up some of those. Would be good, Tim. So William, we these cabins were wood fired. There was only a little wood stove in the corner, and we had to keep that going throughout the night. So it was cool. It would get down below freezing at night when we were out there, and it's dark, very, very dark in there. You're in the middle of the mountains. There's nothing happening. So my wife was doing really well. She's sleeping and everything else, and all of a sudden she wakes up to somebody touching her feet, or felt something touching her feet, and kind of crawling up and touching, going up there and further onto her knees, and all of a sudden she starts kicking and flailing. And well, apparently we didn't know that William tends to sleepwalk a little bit, and I think he was getting cold because he kicked his sleeping bag off. And yeah, I guess the wife's bunk was as close as he get, and maybe it was a warmer area, and he was perhaps trying to stay warm. Um, that's what I'm hoping anyway.
So I take it he
That was
never
a-
actually made it in the sleeping bag.
Well, I hope not. I don't. Oh yes, William was a wonderful young
yes.
man growing up.
So on that same trip, I believe my wife was running one of the quads, was she not?
Ah, Mrs. Tippy.
Mrs. Tippy.
Oh yes, this was another wonderful story, and maybe I should go back one more before I tell the story about Mrs. Tippy. Is about you and having to when we were leaving Fort St. John to go to this trip, and I was very, how can I say it, anal perhaps, in having proper time, that we're on in time and we're doing this. And I remember very vividly saying to you, David, do you have the keys to the ATV?
I'm
Oh,
sure I
yeah,
did.
yeah. Yeah. Well, you loaded it up in the back of the truck. So you have the keys. Oh, yeah. 2.5 hours later, we're up to the unloading site. I'm on unloaded. I've got all my gear on. I'm ready to go. Everybody's standing around. The ATV is still in the back of your truck. Dave, where's the, are you getting out? Yeah. Remember hot wiring the old quad? Otherwise, a 2.5 hour trip. So that was the David story.
That was when I learned how to hotwire a Honda 450.
Yeah, I remember that. But this was Susan. I'll tell a little quick story about Susan. It was kind of her first trip out into the wilderness on an ATV, that, staying overnight and that type of thing. And love Susan, very tiny little lady, but she is not, how can I put, an expert in ATV riding. And this trail that we're going on is more than an expert trail. So let's give Susan credit where credit's due. That poor girl had that bike upside down more times than it was on the wheels. And I affectionately, my wife and I and the rest of the crew there, kind of nicknamed her for the rest of the trip. It was not Mrs. Smith or Susan, it was Mrs. Tippy, because the bike was over quite a few times. But
if I remember right,
trip.
It was one Mrs.
One
or two
Mrs.
Mrs.
Tippy,
Tippy,
two Mrs.
or
Tippy.
three Mrs. Tippy.
3 Mrs. Tippy. There you go. Yeah, it was
I
a
do
good one.
remember that. I have a video, Tim, and I'm going to try to play it here.
Okay.
Give me 20 seconds. I think I can just do this. If I'm still learning how to do this stuff.
Oh, Mr. Computer Expert.
Yeah, I'm still learning how to do it, but that's okay. We'll figure this out because I like to think I'm smart about these things.
That's why I hired you to take care of all the computer work at the store, because you were smart.
Little did you know. So I remember you were hiring me for the very first time, and we went out for coffee.
You're going to go about the NHL thing, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. And we went out for coffee, and you said, Dave, I just want you to sit on the computer. I don't care what you do as long as the signs are done. And I think you lied to me. Except here's a video just for you, Tim. Let's see if this will open.
Oiga, señor, que estoy hablando con usted, no me dé la espalda, hombre. ¿Qué pasa en su corral? Zapatero, ¿qué opina usted del gobierno de Zapatero? Pues igual que yo. ¿Y qué opina usted? ¿Qué opina usted del gobierno canario?
This is you and me.
Oh, it has been over the years. Which one is you, Dave?
I'm pretty sure I'm the GOAT. I am pretty sure.
Yeah.
Le vamos a preguntar que si reciben alguna subvención del gobierno. ¿Reciben ustedes alguna subvención del gobierno?
Yeah, there you are, Dave.
I'm pretty sure that is you and I. I don't know if I played this one, except early on the broadcast, I got this message from Susan. Where's the GOAT video, please? So that's what I've been trying to do. That's why I haven't been looking at the camera like I'm supposed to.
So can I go on a bit of a rant?
Absolutely.
Okay. I've been thinking about this because you talked to me a little earlier about the NHL and the hockey, how we used to have some really interesting conversations around hockey. And I have been part of a hockey, what do you call it, hockey pool for years and years and years. 25, 30 years I've been involved in a hockey pool. I have never come close to winning. So this year and you had been part of it before, and this year we invited Alex in to be part of this hockey pool. And I remember at the beginning of the year, I was going to get my butt kicked and this and that, and I didn't have any good players, and away we went. But my luck, here it is, the 2019-2020 season. I'm winning the hockey pool by not a little margin, but a lot. And Fantasy League hockey cuts the season short because of what? The pandemic. My luck. And Alex, I'm going to have to get with you this year, and I'm going to kick your butt in hockey this year. I promise you that.
I think he'll be waiting to have that happen. He was laughing the other day about it because he wrote that comment in on our other stream.
And my luck. I'm winning it, and by a good margin. In what position were you, Dave?
Last.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Last. Yes.
Yeah, that's usually where I am, and I'm gloating a little bit this year because I had done so well in it. And then the pandemic hits, and I'm done.
I was carrying on my usual position in dead last, and in all hockey pools. I don't think I've ever won a single thing in a hockey pool.
I've never been that lucky. Because I'd go into the draft and I'd never get the right people, and somebody else would get the player I wanted, and I had really terrible players, by the way. I really did. I didn't have any good ones, but they all worked together, I guess. So.
Well, at least I'm consistent. See, you're not consistent because you were in first place all of a sudden.
For once.
The other one that I wanted to share a little bit about, have you talk about a little bit, is I'm sure you have stories of me on your couch.
Oh my God.
Watching hockey. But the one I do remember is, if you remember, I'm not a fish eater. I don't like fish. I don't like shrimp. I don't like...
No seafood, nothing.
No, if it comes out of the ocean, I'm not going to eat it. I'm just not. It looks wonderful in the ocean. If I catch a fish, I throw it in again. That's just how I am. And we come to your...
David, yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Tell the story. Let's hear your version.
So I believe there was going to be a hockey game on that night, and I believe it may have even been in the playoffs or whatever. So I says, why don't you come over for supper? Oh, yeah, that'd be wonderful. So David comes over for supper, and we're starting to watch the hockey game. My wife's cooking a wonderful meal, and we go, we go to sit down, and my wife Susan goes, "Well, here you go, Dave." And we had whitefish that night, fried whitefish, beautiful. Dave takes it and he's lapping it up like there's no tomorrow. He didn't even bat an eye. About the third period in, he goes, "That was really good." I says, I liked it. But you know what?" he says, "I don't eat fish." And I turned to him, I looked and says, "Dave, you had second helpings of it." "Yeah, I was polite." Oh, Dave. So from now on, you never come over and I won't feed you fish anymore.
That's right.
There you go. Putz. But then it was lucky you did wake up before the third period was over. At least you stayed awake, I think, through maybe 20 minutes of that hockey game. Because each time we did get together to watch a hockey game, I'd be sitting there watching the game, and I'd watch my illustrious Canucks, Daniel to Hendrick, Hendrick to Daniel
to Henrik.
Cycling down in the corner. I've never shot the puck in the net, but anyway. And I look over at Dave, and he's cutting Z's like no tomorrow. Sleeps right through till about 2.5 minutes left in the third period. Kind of opens his eyes, wakes up. Gotta go. Yeah, see you, Dave. Great company.
Great
Nice
company.
guy.
So one last story, and this is about you. And I get
all good ones.
Yeah, all good ones.
Okay.
So I had a bit of a commute into work with Tim.
Oh, I know.
It was about a half-hour commute. And I'm driving in one day, and I hit a moose. So anybody who knows how large a moose is, if you hit a moose with a minivan, there's going to be some damage. So I have a friend of mine behind me. He's driving into town as well. He picks me up. He takes me to the hospital. I'm going to get my hand looked at because I have a bunch of glass in my hand. It's bleeding. And this is a number of years ago. And so I had a cell phone, but it was really expensive to use, and I didn't use it much, except I get a call on it from Tim. "Where the hell are you?" And I'm like, "I'm at the hospital. I hit a moose." "Well, how soon can you get in here?" I may or may not have hung up on Tim at that point. So that was one time. A little bit later, though, you just got to wait because I get my shots in here. A little while later, I'm at home one morning, and it's getting near when I should be leaving, and Susan comes out and says, "Hey, Dave, we have a bit of a problem." And, what's the problem? I said, "I got to go, but what's the problem?" And she said, "Well, William, who we were homeschooling at the time, was in his room supposedly every day working on schoolwork, except he wasn't. He was surfing the internet, such as it was in those days. I'm sure it was on dial-up. And he wasn't doing any schoolwork. So Susan's a wreck because he has done no work for weeks. And so I say, "I'll tell you what, I'll phone Tim and I'll say I'm going to be a bit late this morning." So I call Tim up and I say, "Hey, Tim, we're having a bit of a crisis in our house. I'm going to be a bit late." And what was your response, Tim?
"Well, damn it, Dave, can't you plan your crises any better than that?"
That was the tone of our relationship.
But you know what? I was telling my son-in-law and daughter this story here not that long ago, because now they're running their own business.
Yeah.
And this came up in conversation not that long ago. And I think it was, 3 or 4 days ago. And my son-in-law turned at me and he looked. He had the fear, like he thought, "Man, this guy's an asshole." But it's stress. That's all it was. I love you, Dave.
Well, I have a nickname that I got while working for you, and I have a friend here who has me in his phone as Effin' Dave. And I got that from working with Tim because I pushed so many buttons when I worked with you.
Oh, my good Lord, man. We'll have to bring another buddy in when we all work together there.
We will.
Doug Tuchansky.
Yes, we will. We will.
Oh, my good Lord. But we had some good debates, Dave, to say the least.
We did. And I sort of want to wrap this up on that note is over the years, we have argued vehemently about so many things. And yet at the end of the day, and this has been, it's going on, 18 or 20 years, we've been friends. You actually still invite me to your house. You know, I have no idea why.
I know, right?
You were at all my kids at all the weddings, at all the graduations.
At your birthday party.
And my 50th birthday party.
There you go.
How have we managed to argue as much as we have and still remain friends?
That's a good question. I really don't know, because on our side of the family, I still remember when my dad was very sick and in hospital, you would go up and play the guitar and sing to him, which was something that I'll never forget. I remember you singing at my mom and dad's 50th wedding anniversary, which was an amazing time. You know, at my daughter's wedding, you would, you know, sitting on the beach in Mexico, strumming the guitar. Like, it was just wonderful. I don't know. We had this really strange connection, I guess, more than anything, that we could sit and argue and debate. And I don't know if we would call it fighting per se, but different opinions and views on many things. Call it politics, call it sports, call it work, call it whatever it was. We had opposing views, yet at the end of the day, we still seem to work our differences out, and here we are. You had a phrase for that, if I remember. It was an acronym.
It was an acronym.
An acronym, yes.
Which was
PUD.
PUD. It just sounds bad, but explain what PUD is.
I would remember having quite a few conversations with you. Dave, are we going to get into some PUD here today? PUD, affectionately known as passionate, unfiltered debate.
It was definitely passionate. It was most certainly unfiltered, and it was debate.
I thought that was a good phrase and good acronym to give it, but it was crazy times, and it still is. Like, you and I still get on the phone and talk to one another.
We do,
and we still yell and scream at each other. Not as much, though. I find it hasn't been like that.
I find
really calmed down.
Well, I think it's distance now. I live in the U.S. You used to live in Canada. There's 500 miles between us. Come on.
Yeah, but we still get on the phone and we still have our arguments, to say the least. And it can be anything from politics, like I said, to sports. And I'm very passionate about my hockey team.
I still lose my keys.
Oh, good Lord. That was another good one. You would lose keys like there was no tomorrow. Like, you were the most, how can I put it, absent-minded when it come to that. Like, you'd go for lunch. Dave, you got the keys? Yeah. And you would always say yes, and you'd never know where they were. And you used to get under my skin. Dave, did you bring that? Yeah, you bet. Yeah, you bet. And you'd look around, and then all of a sudden they would miraculously show up on the floor of the truck or in the floor of at the shop. Yeah, see, here they are. You rotten bugger.
So on that note, being called a rotten bugger, I kind of like that one. It's better than what William called me the other day, a dumbass. So
well, I was trying to be polite, Dave.
There you go.
It's my first time on, right?
There you go. So I just want to thank you all for tuning in. We've actually had a heck of an audience here this evening, Tim. We've been up to like 11 or 12, 13 folks watching us, which is our highest record yet.
Oh, good.
For those of you who want to see more of this, we're going to be on the Will and Dave Show every Saturday.